All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started here. I can't tell, honestly, if my video is working. Hopefully it is. If you could let me know in the chat box if it is working, that would be great. But otherwise, I want to go ahead and get started today. Thank you for being here for How to Build Your Brand for Greater Professional Success. I am Hallie Crawford. I am a certified career coach and the founder of HallieCrawford.com. We have been coaching and training for just over 18 years now, and we absolutely love what we do, helping people with their career success, goals, and progression, and really appreciate your time today, especially on your lunch hour, right before the holiday as well. There is a handout we have for today, everyone. It should be located in the chat box if you'd like to take a look at that. It looks like I may be having a little bit of trouble with the network today, so if you cannot see that for any reason, just send us an email, admin@HallieCrawford.com, and we will actually send that out to all the participants and everyone who registered for today in an attachment as part of what you get with the recording as well, just in case you can't get that handout, because I think we might be having issues with that. So let's go ahead and dive in here because we've got a lot to cover in just a short 30 minutes today. So first of all, before we begin, I just wanted you all to know that your phones are muted just so that there's enough quiet in the space for everyone to hear me talking kind of as we go. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those at the end. If we have a couple minutes there at the end, please put those in the chat box and feel free to fill those out at any time during the course of the call, and I will try to answer as many things as I can at the end. This call, just as a reminder, is being recorded, and you will receive the audio after the session today. So you'll have that in order to take notes and to kind of go over or review everything that we've talked about. So let's dive into what our agenda is for today. So here's what we're going to take a look at. If you look at the slide here, we are going to talk about why having a brand, a professional brand, is essential to your professional success, why it's so important. The next thing is the 3 components to build or help you build your personal brand, thinking about who you are, what you do, and what you're known for. Very simple. And then finally, we're going to talk about managing your brand and how to do that actively and effectively on a consistent, regular basis. Okay? So let's dive right in. So this is a great kind of sense for you of why branding is so important. This is an example for one specific role of sales or an industry of sales, if you will, okay? Clients will buy from people they trust, respect, and like. And you know what? This is the case across the board. In terms of being a professional, whether you're in sales or not, as long as you are in any role that is, client facing or not, that you have clients or customers that buy your product or buy your service, we all know that clients will buy from people that they trust, respect, and like in terms of the organization as well. And confident and inspired people who are the face of an organization can build these really strong relationships with customers. And relationships like that, again, regardless of, what position you're in within your organization, these will translate into increased sales for your organization and customer loyalty, okay? So this is part of why branding is so important. For the second slide here, branding goes along with building trust enormously. And from the Harvard Business Review, one of their recent things that they talked about, or a quote from their magazine, is that today, trust is not simply a nice thing to have, but it's a critical strategic asset for any professional in the workplace. It's a function of the brand messaging lining up with the consumer's actual interaction with the product or service. So branding is critical, not just for an organization, but for a professional as well. And you want it to align with the message that your organization is providing, but also for who you are as a professional and as a person, okay? So why is it important? These 2 kind of statistics here or quotes gave us a little bit of a sense of that. But here are some other reasons from Forbes why branding is important. It builds trust, and these are 6 traits that build trust. So these are the things you need to think about when you're thinking about building your branding statement and thoughts around that. So first of all, building trust involves a person, like, person-to-person connection, a face in that personal connection. Customer testimonials and reviews, you want to have those as part of your branding statement. You want to have them on your LinkedIn profile. You want to have them on your resume. We have seen people actually take their LinkedIn recommendations and put them on their resume, and we think that's a great tool to help you build your brand. Honesty and being forthright and direct. Conciseness, getting to the point, not rambling too much. that emotional connection and listening, active, effective listening, is a really important piece to developing that trust and therefore building your brand. So you want to consider all of these components, okay? So let's take a look at the next slide. Personal branding, which is like the art of building a unique brand around yourself as an individual or a professional, is just as important, as we said before, as an organization building their brand, okay? Personal branding is becoming increasingly important because these days, as you can imagine, modern audiences tend to trust people more than corporations. This is from Inc. magazine. And here's the deal: with the advent of the internet, social media, everything else, your personal brand is that much more important, not just because you have multiple ways now to communicate it, and there are multiple ways that you're going to show up just, on the internet as well as in other ways, but organizations or consumers or customers tend to trust people more. And I think this is a little bit of a generalization, but for the most part, it's true, tend to trust people more than the organizations. So it's that much more important to have your own professional and personal brand to reflect the organization, but also yourself too, okay? Let's take a look at the next slide here. A personal brand, and this is the last one about why it's important, and then we'll move into the steps here. A personal brand represents, and this is one of the critical keys that you all have to think about and consider when you're thinking about your branding statement and sitting down to write it. It's about the value you are able to consistently deliver to the people that you're serving. It's not necessarily about who you are and what you do. Remember, it's about the value that you provide. What do you provide to your organization? What do you provide to your clients and your customers? Every professional needs to have a professional brand, and what we have found over time is that less than 50% of professionals tend to have a really solid and strong brand, and less than 5% are consistently living by their brand, okay? So we have a poll here today, everybody, and I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've used these. So let me see if I can try to pull this first poll up. And if you can, go ahead and answer for us. Out of the people that are on the call today, how many of you struggle with identifying your personal brand? Give us a yes or a no here, please. And let's see if we can, okay, good, 100% is yes so far. We'll give it just another second. Okay, so 100% have a hard time with their personal brand, which understandably is why you're here today. Okay, so I'm gonna close this out. All right, and someone says they are unable to see the slides, so let me just make sure. Thank you for letting me know that. Okay, let me know if you can see the slides here. All right, so yeah, let me know if you can see them. Great, okay, awesome, perfect. I apologize for that. Okay, and remember, you'll get the audio recording and you will have all of the slides within that. And if any of you would like to have, by the way, the PowerPoint, please feel free to email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. And I'm going to pull that up right now. If you'd like a copy of the presentation so that you have that as well, please feel free to email us, okay? And let me just make sure here for a second. Bear with me, because I think some of us are not on mute, and I want to make sure that everybody can hear. Okay. All right, I'll keep working on that as we need to. Audio settings. Okay, all right, so if you'd like a copy of the presentation, feel free to email us at admin@halliecrawford.com or hallie@halliecrawford.com. Okay, so let's dive into the 3 components to build your brand. So this is tip number 2, is how to start building your brand and what to consider and think about. And I love this quote from Jeff Bezos of Amazon: your personal brand is what people say about you basically when you leave the room. So the 3 things you all need to think about in order to build your brand and start writing your branding statement, everyone, is who you are, what you do, and what you're known for. It kind of talks about or builds on what we talked about before. Remember, it's about the value you provide. So these are the 3 basic components. Let's move to the next slide here, okay? And the first thing you need to identify or do in order to build your brand is to think about who you are as a professional. And these are the pieces on the slide here that we suggest you consider in order to determine and communicate, okay, who you are as a professional. What are your career values and how do they align with what you do in your role? and what you do within your organization as well. What are your career goals? Where do you want to be going? And why are you passionate about, or why do you enjoy what you do in terms of your industry and your role? What are your strengths, your education, your background, your experience? What do you bring to the table in terms of that value? And finally, we also want you to think about your personality type, those intangible soft skills that we all have as well. Those are things like strong work ethic, more extroverted maybe than introverted, or vice versa, good listener, solid team player, natural leadership skills. One of the things that people tend to forget, and I want to remind you of, is that people tend to think about, okay, here's the value I provide, here are my strengths, and those hard, tangible skills. Those are critically important, of course, but you also want to think about those soft skills you bring to the table too, because those are things that can make you unique and stand out from your competition in the workplace, okay? So whatever those soft skills are, you want to incorporate those into your branding statement as well. So these are the pieces we suggest you consider as a self-assessment, if you will, to understand who you are as a professional and that piece of your branding statement, okay? And I'm having trouble muting everybody. I apologize for that, but thank you for being quiet for today. Zoom meeting for us is a little bit new, and some of the buttons are kind of confusing, I think, unfortunately. We're used to GoToMeeting. Okay, so the second piece in terms of self-assessment and understanding who you are is to think about, like we talked about in the previous slide, what your values are and why you enjoy what you do. We think this is an important piece to your brand. It's not just about the things that you provide and what your strengths are, although that's the ultimate goal at the very end of your branding statement, but we also want you to talk about why you enjoy what you do, why you have that sense of meaning and fulfillment, okay? We also want you to think about your education, your experience, and your strengths, why you're qualified to provide the value that you provide, and how these elements relate to the value you provide to your customers, your clients, and your organization, okay? So these are the pieces we want you to think about first. And the reason why we bring this up in terms of who you are is if you take a look at our career model, this is the model we use with all of our clients, to help them not just identify their career direction, but find out if they're in the right fit career and organization-wise, but also to help them sell themselves in terms of their brand, even within a job search, if that's the case for you, okay? So if you look at the items here that are pointed out with the arrows, personality type, we talked about that before. You want to incorporate that in your branding statement. You want to think about your education and your experience. And if your education is not relevant, then you just leave that part out. But if there were specific courses that you took in terms of undergraduate, master's degree, PhD, you can include those. And then finally, take a look at your strengths there too. So these are the elements. And this is why we have you incorporate those into your branding statement, because these 8 pieces show you the things that you need to know, not just in terms of your career direction, but in terms of promoting yourself as a professional. So that's why we bring those up, okay? All right, so the next slide in terms of who you are, but not just a self-assessment. So the previous few slides were about a self-assessment and understanding who you are, thinking to yourself what makes sense for your branding statement. But we'd also like you to interview 3 people. This is a homework assignment, so get out your pen and paper. And we want you to ask other people, because this is a critical way that you can understand what your current brand is, if it is what you want it to be, and how you may need to adjust it. And even honestly, if you're communicating a brand at all, if it's clear to them. So we suggest you interview at least 3 people. And we suggest that you interview people that are in your professional life, but add a couple more, interview 5 people that are in your personal life as well, because that can add some extra kind of information that you may want to incorporate into your professional life. And ask them these questions that are on the slide. What are my top strengths? What do I do better than most people you know? When you think of me, what adjectives come to mind? That relates to the Jeff Bezos comment or quote that we had before at the slide earlier about that's what people, or your personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. And we want it to be positive and what you want it to be, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at our next poll here. And, okay, I'm sharing the results of the first poll. Thank you for being patient with the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next poll here. Okay, that's that one. I already did that. Okay, I might have trouble with these polls, everybody. Oh, here we go. Okay, So the next poll is, how many of you have interviewed others regarding your strengths? So go ahead and take a look at that poll, and I'm curious. Ooh, it looks like 50-50, which is great. Okay, more people than not. Okay, it's going back and forth a little bit. Okay, so it's about 50-50, give or take. Thank you all for participating and sharing with us about that. Let me share the results. Okay, here's the results right here. So we've got 43% who have said they have interviewed other people and 57% who have not. So this is something that I want everyone to do, even if you've done it before, because your brand may have changed, and getting updated results for the purposes of what we're doing today can be incredibly helpful. And for those of you who have never done it, make sure that you interview people. Just by the way, in person or over the phone is better, not just a passive email, because it's really important to be able to ask them additional questions about what they're saying so you can get that additional information, okay? All right, so that's our second poll. Let's take a look at this next slide here, everybody. After you're interviewing people, this is another homework assignment to help you gather information, not just from yourself, but from others about what your leadership strengths are. So this is a leadership wheel from Development Dimensions International. It is a management consulting firm, highly regarded. And one of the things we suggest to help you understand where you are in terms of your brand, what your strengths are, and maybe what some of your weaknesses are too, is to fill out this wheel for yourself, and also ask your coworkers or your supervisor to fill it out for you as well, so that you get a clear sense of what's really going on, okay? So you'll see here on the wheel, these are the top areas that they believe from their consulting work that they've done are the top most important leadership strengths, okay? And you can rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And as I said, we want you to do a self-assessment, but we also recommend that you have other people give you an assessment as well, because this can give you a sense of where you stand in terms of your leadership skills regarding your brand, okay? Now, what you do and what you're known for is the second piece to your personal brand. So we talked about who you are and what your values are, what your strengths are, et cetera. So the components to understanding what you do and what you're known for are these three things on the slide. Who do you serve? What makes you unique? And why should they believe you? What's the experience or expertise or kind of star stories, if you will, that you bring to the table that will help them understand, yeah, I can trust this person and what they're saying, okay? So let's talk about this first one for just a second. So what you do and what you're known for. You want to think about who your target market is or your target audience, and who you serve, whether it's your customers as well as your organization or a specific audience or demographic. So here's an example of who the people are that you might serve. People who want to grow their business, environmental organizations who want to improve their operational processes. You need to think first about who your target audience is and who you serve, okay? The second piece is what you do and what you're known for. And these are some of the questions you want to think about in order to answer this question for your branding statement. What services you provide, what unique value you provide that no one else does. And this is where, again, that combination of soft skills can make a difference, everybody. These are some examples on the slide. Custom programs and treatments, assistance managing inventory or co-hosted workshops, for example. This is something that you may do, for example, as a salesperson, and how you help your clients and your customers. At the very bottom of the slide here, you want to take a look at this. You want it to be results-oriented, everyone, not task-oriented. These are not just the things that I do, but you want to also ask or tell them what the results are. So as a result, we are partners with our customers, and we enable them to increase their sales because we support them in how to do that, okay? And not just selling our product to them. So the third piece here is in terms of what you do and what you're known for, why should they believe you? Again, this goes back to what are the results that you provide, you offer, or create. This is an example here in terms of results. Marketing plans that increase sales by X number, finding jobs that make people want to jump out of bed in the morning. That would be for a career coach like me, helping people find a job that they truly enjoy. That is results oriented. So you want to make sure that your languaging is not task oriented, but it's very results oriented. Okay, so here's an example of a possible branding statement. okay? And I'm going to give you 2 of them. And remember, if you want the slides, just email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. We'll send those to you afterwards. But here's an example of a possible beginning of a branding statement. Now, we talked about a lot of different things today. And so how I see this branding statement is the beginning of what you might also say during the course of a conversation with someone. So think about it as kind of your elevator speech. And this is what you would say at the beginning, but obviously you can say a lot more and give more examples about the results that you achieve as a conversation progresses in terms of the networking, okay? But this is a good example of a beginning. Rescuing troubled companies, and these are some examples at the bottom here. You can see how it's results oriented, out of the red and into the black within a year. Let me show you another example here on the next slide. This is for a web developer, okay? And these are some examples that you can use some of the languaging and get some ideas in order to craft your own branding statement, okay? All right. If anyone feels like after our session today, you need additional assistance specific to your situation because you've got unique needs, please feel free to schedule a strategy session with me. I'm happy to do that with anyone who's listening to the recording or who's on the call today. Just email me at hallie@halliecrawford.com. Happy to set that up with you, and I can give you specific advice just for your situation, okay? All right. Let's take a look at here, managing your brand. So managing your brand, remember that it's not just about what you say and the words that you use, but it's also about what you do. The ways that we want you to effectively manage your brand is through clear, effective communication, the actions that you take and the results you achieve for your clients and customers and organization. Through social media, we focus mostly obviously on LinkedIn because that's the professional connection there or the professional networking site, and your presence in your industry, okay? So we'll talk about this for just a moment. So first of all, when you talk or think about managing your brand, you want to think about your resume, especially if you're in job search mode, okay? So this is more specific to those job seekers out there, but it's something that you want to have up to date and also, you know, qualifies for or goes towards your LinkedIn profile as well, okay, which we'll talk about in a second. But your resume is your personal marketing document and your name is your brand. And we share this example. This is a header that is from one of our clients that one of our resume writers did for them. And I share this with you because when you're updating your resume for the purposes of a job search specifically, okay, you want to have your name stand out and talk about who you are. Look at this, for this person, Tiffany, she's a coach, facilitator, problem solver, visionary, okay? That's branding who she is. And also there's like a tagline underneath it as well. So you want to have something like this on your resume, okay? The second place that you want to manage your brand is on your LinkedIn profile. Okay, so I want to find out with this poll how many have a branding statement. And these are, this is an example here of a branding statement, okay?
Yeah, but
Let me see if I can get the third poll here. And it's a little bit loud in someone's space. If you could mute yourself for a second, that would be great. And let me see if I can figure out how to do it here. The baby agrees with everything that we're saying. Okay. So we should be able to mute. Let me see if I can do that. Okay, good. We've got everybody on mute. Okay, cool. All right. So with this poll, everyone, if you can take a look here and tell me, okay, so we've got 40% say yes, have a branding statement on LinkedIn, and we've got 60%, nope, but now it's 50-50. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling. So it's about 50-50. I'll share the results with you guys. So it's about 50-50. So that's actually good news. I'm glad that, you know, at least it's half and half. But remember, once you write your branding statement, everyone, you don't just want to have it on your resume, cover letter, but you also want to put it on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, just remember, you can make that branding statement more personal. It goes at the top, right underneath your photo, okay? And you can make it more personal by talking a little bit. You can use first person on LinkedIn, and you can make it more personal by talking a little bit more about your passions and, you know, why you're interested in your industry and what you're passionate about there, okay? That's the last of our polls here. Let me just share a little bit more with you about managing your brand on this next slide. There are other ways to promote your brand, okay? One way is other avenues for social media. For example, Twitter and Facebook. I get that Facebook is mostly personal. Some people will have a professional Facebook page. The thing with Facebook and Twitter and anything else is you just want to make sure it's cleaned up and doesn't show that, you know, there's anything going on in your personal life that would be inappropriate or something you don't want an employer to see, because they are going to search for you, and they will search for you on Facebook to a certain extent. So one of the things you want to make sure is that you Google yourself to see what comes up in general under a Google search, and do that about every 6 months just so you can verify and check out what's on there, photos, etc. Okay? We want to add your brand, a shortened version of it. Remember the example before from Tiffany, a shortened version of your tagline, add it to your signature line in your email, okay? So you always want to have, for your professional email address, you want to have a solid professional looking signature line, and you can add your brand there, a quick short statement or summary of it. And also establish yourself as a presence in your industry. And this is how we recommend you do that on this slide here. Write articles and post them on LinkedIn. Write for industry publications or blogs. Comment on them on LinkedIn. Share other things on LinkedIn too, just to show that you have an interest, but also a presence in your industry. That will help you establish your brand, okay? And this is not just for job searching. This is also for just to be, you know, have a more established presence within your industry and be seen as a thought leader. And another idea is to give presentations at conferences or serve on a board of your local industry association, that chapter there. That will help you be more visible, okay? Let's take a look at this next slide here. Oh, this is about the social media. Just wanted to remind you of this just really quickly, is 70% of employers out there say they have turned down candidates because of something negative they have found online. So this is why I was talking earlier about Googling yourself, reviewing all of your social media accounts, and obviously make sure you review LinkedIn and it presents you in the way that you want to be presented. Okay, so let's talk about some next steps before we start to close out for today. I want you all to come up with one action item that you will take in the next week and write that down for us. There is a handout in the chat box. We'll send that to you afterwards in case it didn't upload effectively. You can interview others for your action step. You can work on creating or refining your branding statement based on what you've learned here today. Or it may be that you need to update your resume. Whatever it is, please write that down right now. And we'll give you a couple of weeks since the holidays are coming up for a lot of us. So a couple of weeks in the new year, we want you to come up with at least one action step that you will take in order to move the ball forward with this. And please feel free to schedule that strategy session with me. Just email us. Happy to set that up with you. I'll send you some times that work for my calendar, okay? And you can pick something in the new year if that's better. All right, the final thing I wanted to share with you all is the quote that always gets me through times when I feel like I have to step out of my comfort zone to try something new or do something a little bit different, and I'm not so thrilled about it. This is the quote that always gets me to kind of push myself outside my comfort zone. The greatest risk in life is not taking one. So remember, even if you're shy and don't feel like interviewing other people about your brand, tell them a crazy career coach asked you to do it. Whatever you need to do, say it was a homework assignment from a coach. But step out of your comfort zone to work on creating this brand for yourself. Even if you're not in job search mode like we talked about, it's critically important to manage your brand as a professional, because if you have to be in job search mode later, it's going to come in handy then. And if not, if it's something, you know, if you're in a sales job, and even if you're not, it is going to enable you to be more effective in your career long term, because people will think of you when they need assistance, and you'll get that assistance much more, you know, quickly than you would have otherwise. Okay? All right, so let's see. I've got about 1 more minute before I need to run to a client call. If we have any questions, please feel free to enter those into the chat box, okay? And if anyone is interested in our career coaching services, I would be happy to talk with you about it for free for just a few minutes about that first. That's what we always do, is we schedule a consultation in order to learn more about each person's needs, make sure that we're a fit to work with them, and then we go from there and explain our services and how they might be able to help you. All right, any questions? And then we'll close here in just a moment. Thanks for your patience, everyone, with our technical difficulties. I'll get better at this Zoom meeting thing. It just takes a little while to press all the buttons, right? All right, we don't have any questions and we're at the top of the hour, so I want to be mindful of your time as well. Thank you so much for attending today, everyone. We greatly appreciate it. Please contact us if you have any other questions from this presentation or anything else, and I'm happy to talk to you about our services or your specific needs at any time. Have a great holiday, everybody. Bye-bye.